Fiddler in front of a crowd of probably in the area of 15,000, 16,000 at this relatively new stadium. Magnificent structure, and Fiddler in that rather uncommon 13 jumper. One of many stars. Wendell Saylor makes his last green and gold appearance in rugby league tonight. 17 test matches, 13 tries for the big fella, who the next time he runs out at Wellington might well be eyeballing Jonah Lomu. And here are the Kiwis now coming out onto WestpacTrust Stadium. 25 times they've won in the 96 matches played, and 14 of those victories have been here in New Zealand. And the welcome for them is loud. Resounding welcome to the Kiwis, who are given a very good chance of victory tonight as Peter Sterling steps into the broadcasting box.
Good evening, Ray. Looking forward to what should be a very competitive test match as we see Stacey Jones, one of the key men for the Kiwis this evening, taking on Australia, and that is the green and gold side. Lockyer at fullback, Takiri and Wendell Saylor the wingers, Ryan Girdler, Matt Gidley in the centres, Trent Barrett at 5'8", Andrew Johns at half. Brad Fittler moves through to lock forward, Brad Myers, Fletcher, Stevens, Medeiros and Webke, and off the bench Sivanasiva, Kearns, Carlaw, McDougall, coached by Chris Anderson.
So there's the New Zealand team card.
And a mixture of experience and youth there. Robbie Paul is fullback, Torpy and Mealy the wingers, Bunganar, David Violecki the centre pairing, Paul at 5'8", that's Henry, halfback Stacey Jones. Lock forward tonight, Monty Beetham, second row of Stephen Kearney and Ruben Wickie, the front row of Nathan Kalis, who captains the side, Richard Swain and Craig Smith, and off the bench Logan Swan, Susu, Latishi and David Solomona, their new coach Gary Freeman.
So we're just waiting for the national anthems of both countries. And the Beat Girls, one of the big groups here in Wellington, will perform both anthems. Apparently they work out of both here at Wellington and also in Sydney, with a couple of different artists in both cities, naturally enough. They'll be backed by the New Zealand Army Band from Christchurch. Number 7 is Stacey Jones, as we stand by now for the national anthems, and this crowd has swelled enormously in the last few minutes. He will, of course, lead the Kangaroos to England at the end of the year. Wonderful rendition of their own anthem, and of course that of Australia, the New Zealand anthem, God Defend New Zealand, in both English and Maori. And that has really inspired the crowd. Beautiful ground, WestpacTrust Stadium. And in fact, this represents, I believe, the 19th venue where Test football, rugby league Test football, has been played in and around New Zealand. Of course, it was dominated for a long period of time by Carlo Park. 3 times they played tests at the Basin Reserve here. As we watch the Haka now. The challenge goes out. Last time they played Test football in Wellington was, as I mentioned earlier, at Athletic Park. It was won by Australia. Gary Freeman played for the Kiwis that day. Russell Smith is the referee from Great Britain. Didn't go down all that big with many of the Australian hierarchy. Craig Smith. The clash between him and Shane Webke tonight should be a boomer. Paul it is, starting the Test match, and a roar goes up as the first tackle is about to be made on Webke, and he's met back on his own 20-metre line and pulled down there by not only Swain but also Kearney and Craig Smith, and tackle number 2 is made on the Australians 28 metres away from their own line. It's going to be a tough day at the office, I'm sure, as Lockyer clears on tackle number 3. It's a booming kick, and taken back there by Henry Paul, who fell back into the fullback position expecting the kick. And now the number 3, Vanganar, delivers a pass that, again, Henry Paul was there to take. And now it's with Torpy, the winger, playing in number 2, Melly in 5 on the other side. As they come off their 20-metre line now, a crunching tackle by the Australians, in particular from Jason Stevens and from Shane Webke. The pass looked a little bit in front of the ad line, but Smith it is who plays the ball, the Dragons front rower. Now Kearney takes it to them, and he reaches the 40-metre line in the opening seconds of this game being played in Wellington, New Zealand. Jones went to step, went to kick, then had to pass as the pressure was applied to him, and Paul puts the kick down the ground. And I'm just looking to see whether or not they have in fact fielded a different run onside. The Kiwis, no, Robbie Paul is playing up in the line and Henry is playing at the back as the Australians come into possession again 38 metres out from their own line, with Brian Fletcher taken up the top by Kearney. They surge in. The number 11 for New Zealand is Ruben Wiki.
He is very versatile, isn't he, Henry Paul, starting this game off at fullback. Played 5/8. We've seen him excel at hooker as well. He has dropped back as Darren. In fact, Andrew Johns makes a half bust 35 out from New Zealand line last tackle.
So Buderis, the last thing he probably thought of getting this year was a green and gold jumper. Now the bomb from Lockyer. It's been allowed to bounce. There's a chance on for the Australians, but it's been cleaned up by David Violecki, and the Parramatta centre makes a long run, takes play back to the halfway mark to be tackled there by Saylor.
Well, that was unbelievable. Clinton Torpy and Henry Paul looked at each other, allowed it to bounce. Unfortunately for the home side, David Violecki was able to grab the football and pick up about 30 metres.
Smith now, centre of the ground, about 35 metres out from the Australian line. Swain off to his right, finding Robbie Paul. Now Stacey Jones. And this is the lock forward, Monty Beetham. He'll play the ball 30 metres out from the Australian line. Play towards the eastern side of the ground as they come back to their captain, Kalis. Kalis away for Robbie Paul, who tries to step between the forwards. He's pulled down 20 metres away from the Australian line.
It was touched by an Australian, but Russell Smith hasn't nullified the tackle count. That's the last. Stacey Jones deliberately into the in-goal. Lockyer hoping it'll go dead. It doesn't. And the chase is good.
Yeah, the chase is enthusiastic from the black and whites. Darren Lockyer forced in goal. And who will ever forget? Certainly he won't. His international, I think it was his international debut against the Kiwis at North Harbour Stadium, I believe it was, in Auckland a few years ago. It was a very tentative debut for Darren. He's grown in stature incredibly since then. Roar from the crowd.
Andrew Johns restarts from under the post. The kickers will appreciate big in-goal areas here this evening. Almost a maximum of the 10 or probably 11 metres. And Stacey Jones was able to utilise it on that occasion. I'm sure Johns and Fittler will look to do the same. Swain up the middle.
Good dummy half run by the Melbourne hooker. And he plays it back for Henry Paul, who offloads Craig Smith. Taken there heavily by Webke. The head jolted back on the shoulders. And he plays the ball back to Richard Swain. They go behind Kalis. They pick up Jones. They go for another second man play. It's with Beetham. And Beetham to play it 20 metres away from the Australian line. Now Kalis allowed to run right to the line. And 10 metres out from the Australian line, he plays it on 5. Jones, Paul, puts the kick in the in goal. Will Saylor have any more luck than Lockyer? He beats one. He won't beat the others, though. They put him over the dead ball line. They've come here to play football, the Kiwis.
And the crowd react accordingly. They like what they see at the moment. Good pressure applied by New Zealand. A couple of deft little kicks. That one from Henry Paul into the in-goal area. And that, again, as was the case with the Stacey Jones kick, there are plenty of numbers there to force the Australians dead.
Jones, just that one game under his belt last weekend. What a game it was. No knock-ons as referee Smith play on. In the 11 is Ruben Ricky, who's playing in the second row. Hasn't he shown some versatility down through the years? Henry Paul, Robbie Paul, David Violecki, he will play the ball. 11 or 12 metres out from the line. Robbie puts on the dance, gives the pass away. This is Melly, who's tackled close to the line. They work from the western touchline across through Henry Paul to Stacey Jones. He runs at Bradley Myers. And helping the youngster in the tackle was Brad Fittler. Back now for Henry Paul. Flicks it for Kalis. Kalis gets it away. Kearney is with it. Kearney, desperate to get rid of it, decides to take it to ground. But it's really all hands on deck for the Australians as Jones puts a grubbing kick in. Again, Lockyer. Again taken dead. Tackle made there by Nigel Vunganar. And another line drop out, the third of the game. And the home crowd loving what they see at the moment.
And you can see from the face there of Darren Lockyer, the Australians under pressure here. A lot of petrol being used in the last 3 sets of 6 in a row. Wonderful driving tackle on Stephen Kearney by Fittler and Stevens. That was important. Quite slippery conditions out there. A bit of dew on the field tonight. Both sides need to watch their footing, especially defensively. There's a slow restart here from Johns will help the Australians' cause.
No score on the board. Not from the want of trying, though, by the New Zealanders in particular. They've had all of the football, all of the territory. And they've had it through good football. Kalis played that ball. Now Smith down to the 30-metre line. Webke is working overtime in the centre with Stevens and Fletcher. They go into assist. 28 metres out. 22 metres in from the eastern grandstand here at WestpacTrust Stadium. Swain with a run from dummy half. Ends about 15 out from the line. And he plays it back for Monty Beetham. Beetham away for Stacey Jones. Jones away for Kearney. Kearney gets it away. Does he? No, he holds on. No, he gets it away. It's with Henry Paul. He goes back towards the centre of the ground. Then to Monty Beetham. Beetham is tackled. And again, the pressure goes on from Swain. Through Jones. Jones gets it away. And now it is with Kalis. Kalis then to Ruben Ricky. Ruben Ricky heading for the sideline. Over the sideline. The defence is held for Australia again.
Yeah, that's a great tackle there, taking the ball carrier over the sideline. The New Zealand side were disappointed they didn't get a penalty earlier from an Andrew Johns high tackle. This is the danger of Stephen Kearney, a brilliant offload. And eventually, Nathan Kalis gets the ball away, keeping it alive to Ruben Ricky, and a strong tackle by Ryan Girdler. That's a great shot by the Penrith centre. Very important now that Australia have good ball control. They have no footy for the last 5 minutes. And they're looking to attack from their own line, so plenty of confidence there. They need control.
Back for Sailor. McDougall on the bench. Peter, what do you make of that? Do you think that Sailor might get some work in the forward with McDougall on the bench on the interchange?
Well, it's going to be very interesting, isn't it? Like Adam McDougall can play in a number of positions. In fact, you know, he can slot in at fullback very comfortably, even play some centre at the World Cup. I just think he's been picked more as a utility player than maybe that in mind.
OK, Webke then. Webke falling into the tackle of Kearney. There was a little groan went up from a fairly small contingent of Australian supporters, but it was allowed to go. This is the last tackle for the Kangaroos, and Johns puts a kick down to the eastern touchline where Torpy comes away with it. Just outside the 30-metre line, or Melly it is on that right wing, is it? Melly on the right, Torpy now on the left, and this is Beetham. He will play the ball just inside his own 40-metre line. He's in goals, as Peter pointed out, quite deep. I thought they'd been reduced across the board back to 8. But apparently not here anyway. Now it's with Smith, and he's put down on the halfway line. No score, but 4 line dropouts. Have they got it right to the Australians? And they've really been on the back foot. It is with Swain who puts this kick in. He makes Lockyer run about 10 metres to take it on the bounce, and Lockyer, well, it's a bit refreshing for Darren. Everything else he's had has been in his own in goal. Now Takiri is asked to do something, and he's tackled 11 out from his own line.
Well, Gary Freeman will be delighted with the enthusiasm shown by his side so far, and the best sign of that is on the kick chase. That time when Darren Lockyer picked the football up, there were black and white jerseys spread across the field. Nowhere for him to go. Threw a little bit of a dusty pass, actually, to Lottie Takiri. But he handled it well as Myers goes at 30 out from his own line. Stevens takes it forward.
Sharks front rower. Buoyed by the news on Matthew Johns as Andrew makes a break, and there is support. Trent Barrett it is, down to the 30-metre line, puts the kick in, gets a shoulder. They're going to make it, Australia. They get the first try in the Test match, and Matthew Gidley goes over to put the ball down. Russell Smith points to the spot. First points going to Australia, very much against the run of play, and that man was there to do it again, Andrew Johns.
Yeah, courtesy of the new halves pairing for Australia. Andrew Johns played mostly in the number 9 shirt for the Green and Gulls. Trent Barrett, his first run-on game at 5'8", and good support by Matthew Gidley. There were a number of players there. Darren Lockyer was lining up as well. But a lovely offload here, just splitting 2 of the big men. Great flick pass to Trent Barrett. Now he looked to kick on the outside. Well, he looked at the outside, but he kicked deliberately on the inside because he saw that Wendell Sailor was too far back. The better option was for the inside chasers, and that was led by Matthew Gidley. What a player he is, Andrew Johns, and how much is this man, Trent Barrett, going to enjoy playing outside the Novocastrian maestro tonight. And speaking of Novocastrians, a good start for Matt Gidley to get the first points of this test.
So Barrett and Johns, the halves, putting it together for Matthew Gidley, who's had a very limited season, and he's been, I think, rather unfairly criticised considering the lack of football that he's had. He wasn't one of the successors of Origin football. Girdler, he converts the Gidley try. We will take a break and come back. It is 6-0, the Kangaroos over the Kiwis. So, welcome back. If you've been in the commercial break, the first points in the Test match have gone to Australia as Webke comes thundering back to a big tackle from Richard Swain. Swain picked him off with a good tackle, but Stephen Kearney probably added the weight. He really muscled up on Shane Webke. Here's Stevens now. 35 metres out from his own line. 6-0, the Australians are trying for Matthew Gidley. Put together by the halves of Johns and Barrett, converted by Girdler. And that came after Australia had been under intense pressure for the greater portion of the opening minutes of this Test match.
Well, that was fantastic there from Darren Lockyer. About a 60-metre kick, and then the chase equalled that. Brad Fittler was down there. That's 2 tackles gone against New Zealand now. Quinton Torpy trying to get it away from his own line. And all of a sudden, the momentum of this game has changed dramatically.
Kalis now, 11 metres away from his own line. 6-0 the score as Jones just kicked down the ground. It's with Darren Lockyer. Lockyer running across to Takiri on the eastern touchline, and Takiri is met and put away. This is when the New Zealanders really have to be tough, to be hard. So often they've had good starts in test matches only to be cracked open by the counter punch of the Australians, and then many times they've rolled up their tent. Let's hope that's not to be the case tonight. Here's Stevens, 20 away from the line. Now Johns dummied to Fittler on the inside, went to the outside to Barrett to Gidley away now to Sailor goes back on the inside. He's met there by Violecki and Kearney, and also by Robbie Paul, but they've got all the ground to work with. Firstly, they go to Barrett. Barrett works an angle with Fittler. Fittler was able to get it away after being tackled. Now it's with Fletcher. Fletcher goes to the 10-metre line. He does better than that before being pulled down by Ricky and Jones. And the Australians very close to the line. They're about 5 metres out. Johns puts a kick in, looking for Barrett, looking for Gidley. Gidley couldn't get to it. And the New Zealanders with the ball. Did they knock on in goal? They grounded in goal anyway.
Yeah, no doubt Henry Paul knocked on there. Australians claim there was a little bit of interference on a couple of their chases. It was a deft kick once again from Andrew Johns. Gidley looked like he might have been getting his second. Shouldered out of the way, nudged out of the way by David Violecki. But again, that was very, very close. Unfortunately for New Zealand, the number 6 knocked on in goal.
For the Tide. In the run in favour of Australia now. Their first goal line dropout, and that is a shocker. It's gone out on the full. It didn't go 10 metres. That's unnecessary anyway. If it's going to go out on the full, that is the worst line dropout I think I've ever seen in rugby league.
It's hard to argue. It was Henry Paul who knocked on in goal, compounding that error. And the thing that amazes me is that while he was going for this, have a look where the Australian centre is placed. It wasn't as though it was vacant territory he was trying to kick into. And it's a gift 2 points once again to Ryan Girdler to extend the lead to 8.
Can you imagine if it wasn't the worst line dropout in rugby league history, how bad the other one might have been?
I'd like to have seen it, perhaps. And you've been around a while. If there has been a worse one, you'd have seen it.
So right in front for one of the game's very best kickers, who hasn't had a happy year with the boot. Girdler converted the Gidley try just a matter of a couple of minutes ago, and now from right in front, he puts it between the uprights. Another goal to Australia. They extend their lead. It is 8-0 Australia over New Zealand from Wellington. Restart. Welcome you back. I've just been reminded that maybe Noel Cleal with a line dropout back in one of the Origin matches might have qualified for a worse goal line dropout than the one we saw just a few moments ago. Sorry, Crusher, but that's the news I'm getting. Stevens will play the ball. 25 metres out from his own line, and Sailor goes in looking for work. That's what you expect from the big fellow. And he'll play the ball 33 metres out from his own line for Danny Badiris to scamper away, holds the ball out in 2 hands, keeps them guessing. It was a good run by the number 9 from Newcastle. Now away for Andrew Johns to put a kick in, and it's going down towards the corner, and it's going to go in touch, in goal, so it'll come back for a 20-metre restart for the Kiwis.
As you pointed out, Ray, very important now that New Zealand just regather themselves, and that doesn't help. A mistake made, first tackle, 22 out from their own line, and another opportunity for the Australians as they go wide. Fittler, Myers, big gap he ran into, and taken by the winger.
What a season it's been for Bradley Myers. Now, Russell Smith has given a warning there to Clinton Torpy. I think he's indicated there was a forearm went in. Let's have a look. And there he comes, third man over the top with the forearm down on the forehead. And it's brought another penalty to the Australians. About 21 metres in and about 12 metres out. Torpy The offender. Totally unnecessary, really. It wasn't as though he was the main tackler. He was the third tackler in. He could have been pinched for any amount of things, I suppose, but then he's put a forearm into the equation as well. There it is again.
Yeah, it's a cheap shot there from the winger. It was actually a long way in. He'd actually come in 15, 20 metres from his wing to make that tackle on Brad Myers, and it was fortunate that he was there for the home side. Now, all of a sudden, for the New Zealanders, it must seem a long time ago since they were putting pressure on. Rolling kicks into the in-goal area at the other end of the field. They look up now, and it's about to be 10-0 against them.
So Girdler getting it nice and comfortable for goal kicking, and he makes it 3 from 3. So Australia rush out to this 10-0 lead after they weathered that early storm. They found the gap, and then Johns and Barrett combined for Gidley. Since that time, there's been a couple of penalties. A worried look on the face of Stacey Jones as Bradley Myers goes back to the interchange bench, and that would not count as a change, given that there was a foul registered on him. Now, bringing it back for Australia is Sivanasiva on in jumper number 17. To play the ball 20 metres away from his own line, and here's Stevens now. So Sivanasiva has gone on for Brad Myers. And they're just doing some quick inspections on him, and here's another change to the Australian side. On in jumper number 15 is Robbie Kearns from the Storm. Fletcher shaping to pass it on the inside. He does eventually. Then Johns, then Kearns. Kearns reacted very quickly. Barrett was there as well. Barrett's looking for Lockyer on his inside. Lockyer goes for the pedal, races away. Oh, any amount of support. Take your pick, Darren. He doesn't take his pick. He puts it over the line himself, and why not? Lockyer scores. Beautiful work. I've got to compliment Robbie Kearns and also Trent Barrett, and Lockyer gets the try.
Yeah, some lovely hands there from the players you mentioned, Ray, especially Robbie Kearns, only the second touch for him in the match, and it was a key one. They got a fairly fortunate bounce into the arms of Trent Barrett, but then he again summed things up perfectly. He saw Darren Lockyer on the inside, and this is very ominous for New Zealand. That's the pass we're talking about. A quick one from Robbie Kearns, bounced into the arms of Trent Barrett. Too much speed for the inside defenders in Jerry Siu and Darren Lockyer, as he does so well, backing up on the inside. Trent Barrett, obviously having a great night. First time that he's been in the number 6 jersey. He scored a try in the World Cup final, ran about 60 metres to do so. This evening he's been involved in the engineering of a couple of tries.
And I made the point earlier that he had an unhappy entry into international football in this country, so it's only appropriate that he should be having a big one tonight. Darren Lockyer, as Ryan Girdler moves in, puts it between the uprights for another goal, so he's got an impeccable record. Australia with this big break now, leading 16-0 in Wellington. We come back to that. Paul, well, not to be denied by his awful line dropout. He only just got that to go 10 metres. The referee says play on, but it was an adventurous restart from Henry Paul. Kalis will play the ball now, some 28 metres out from the Australian line.
Well, this is a calculated risk here. They realised how desperate they were to get the football. Richard Swain actually bats it back to Jerry Siu. And Stephen Kearney now loses the football again. That's a mistake making a left forward.
So the Kiwis keep making mistakes in just about every department of the game. Kearney desperate to unload. Siu was on for the Kiwis. As it goes away from Barrett's hands, and it finds Girdler, and Girdler tries to get on the outside of Wanganah, but he's pulled out. The Bulldog working on the panther there. Now Takiri. Takiri will play the ball 40 metres away. No, he was able to get away just for a couple of more metres. 16-0, the Australians, with 2 converted tries and 2 penalty goals. Right on the halfway line, Johns on the left of the park, turns it back on the inside for Dane Carlaw, and Carlaw, one of the young Broncos. He'll play the ball just outside the 30-metre line. It's across now for Brad Fittler. Fittler on for his Roosters teammate Fletcher. Fletcher back for Fittler. Fittler pulled down heavily and made to play the ball by CU on the 20-metre line. Away now for Lockyer. Lockyer a long ball, finding Johns. The ball might have gone forward out to Takiri. Takiri kicks ahead. The ball goes into touch. It's coming back out to the 10-metre line for the scrum. Takiri. He might have been on the end of a forward pass, but he opted to kick anyway. That pass, and then the kick, and it just goes into touch outside the corner post.
Get him. Let him in. Stay in, Aussies. Stay in the park.
Possession, just a fraction in favour of Australia. It's 53 to 47. At the start of the game, that was almost reading out at something like 90% to 10%. It was laughable, but they weathered that and then struck back, and they've put on a very good score in the minutes that have followed. Played by Beetham now, back on his own 30-metre line.
And that last attacking rate of the Australians, it's again emphasised for New Zealand how they must stay alive on the inside defensively. Just because the pass is gone doesn't mean they can drop off. They've really got to trail on, because the Australians' support play on the inside has been superb. Last tackle now, Stacey Jones. Throws it to Henry Paul inside the 40. Darren Lockyer well placed. Takes it on the full.
Lockyer almost out to the 30-metre line, using Lottie Takiri. Takiri gets away from Swain. Comes to Robbie Paul. He's put down. Went sideways Takiri. No gain in ground whatsoever. Now Gidley.
Right, the report from the sideline is that Brad Myers is suffering concussion, but he is expected to be back into this game. It's Wendell Saylor. Tackled 40 out from his own line.
Badiris then using Fletcher. Fletcher scheming, probing all of the time, keeping the opposition guessing. Fittler, quick ball for Fittler, then a big step, and he takes play just inside the 40-metre line. Badiris there. The ball play wasn't all that quick. John's got a kick through, then got a smack across the mouth for his corner. Now they try to bring it out, and they succeed in doing so through Henry Paul. And with the ball now is Melly, the winger on the near side in this half for us, and jumper number 5. Most of the play is for the defensive side of the Kiwis, gone towards the other side of the ground. Swain. Now Kalis beyond the 20-metre line, captaining his country at a very, very tender age. In fact, Kalis and Kearney, two of the youngest captains of all time in international rugby league. Kearney, of course, captained them several years ago now. Saylor, and the big bloke making ground backwards. Lockyer waiting and then offloading for Sivan Asiva.
Good field position, though, for the Australians. Saw Stacey Jones there forced to kick 25 out from his own line. They are struggling a little bit to get off their own end. The New Zealand side, as Dane Carlaw again takes the ball forward strongly, struggling over the halfway line.
Jones now working the blind side and submitting to the tackle. He was heading towards that sideline, but then realised that he wasn't going to get rid of the ball, so he went to ground. He hit the turf as quick as he could. Kearns, 20 metres in from that eastern touchline.
Last tackle.
And the last coming up, a very slow play the ball. When I say that, I'm not being critical of the Australians, but the New Zealanders are using a niggling tactic to slow it down. And here's Melly now getting the pass away for Henry Paul, just out from his own line. He brushes away. He goes down to the 20-metre line. He runs through a big gap, and now he runs into the defence way out on the 30-metre line. So that is good recovery work by Henry Paul. He needs some pluses alongside his name after a couple of large negatives. Torpy. Big fellow that's out there now is Lauatiti. Kearney. A struggling run, taking him just into the Australian half of play. Interchanges starting to happen more frequently as Swain. That's a good run. Almost opened them up. This is the last tackle now as it goes over for Stacey Jones, and Jones goes high. Lockyer about a 15-metre run to his right, takes it well, and is picked up and tackled there by David Violecki, who made probably the only break, the only real dangerous break made by the Kiwis in the game so far has been made by Violecki.
It's a very important set of 6 for the New Zealanders. They need to force a mistake or to force Australian to kick from their own area. Going wide again, a little bit of a break made. Or that tackle looked as though it was made a touch earlier on Darren Lockyer there by Logan Swan. The referee said play on. And again, half a break there is Sivanasiva. Easy metres up the middle.
Swan is on in 14, Lauatiti's on in 16, and CUCU is on in 15. So no use yet of David Solomona. Parramatta forward. Melly crossing the 10-metre line, pulled down by Gidley, playing right centre defence as the ball goes away for another mistake by the Kiwis. The Australians trying to spread the ball quickly to reap the benefit of it, but the defence out wide stood up, and Takiri will be made to play the ball, but it's a penalty. And Fittler decides no more kicks at goal. Let's go for tries. Let's entertain them. And Webke, running off a Johns pass, will play the ball a couple of metres out from the Kiwis line. But Eris, long ball for Barrett, and Barrett then for Lockyer. A decoy by Fittler. Then it was Girdler. Girdler for Takiri. Takiri tackled 7 or 8 metres out from the Kiwis line, changing the point of the attack, the Australians, as Fittler comes over to Barrett. Barrett takes them on, then delivers. Webke is there, rolling forward to within 5 metres of the line. He plays the ball back for Danny Medeiros, looks for his own try, reaches out, one of the Kiwis kicking at the ball. Now it's gone away for Johns. Johns puts it back on the inside for Sivanasiva, and he will play the ball on tackle 5. Sivanasiva a metre out from the line, played back to Medeiros, and he knocked on a dummy half, did he not?
Now it's a penalty for the New Zealand. Oh no, you're right, sorry, Ray. I thought he put his arm up for a penalty to Australia there for interference. And the man breathing the biggest sigh of relief is Clinton Torpy, who knocked on his own line. That was an awful play the ball from Sivanasiva.
Straight lads. Stay in the back, guys.
Good response for New Zealand there.
Typical of some of these referees from over in England. They wave their arms about. You can often think they're talking about a penalty, but it was a knock-on or something. They've lost the ball again, the Kiwis. They're really signing their own death warrant here.
Well, that was David Solomona, who's just come on trying to throw an impossible pass from a scrum win only 8 metres out from his own line. This is Test football. You've got to treasure it and make sure your opponent score points through earning it.
Solomona forced down under a solid tackle by the Australian halves, and it's something that we probably haven't thought about with the new 6 and the new 7. Barrett and Johns. Johns is one of the best defenders in the game, and Barrett's no slouch, and together they made 2 tackles back-to-back. The ball down to Henry Paul. He tries to get outside to Kiri with a pass to Vanganar. Vanganar got it away to Torpy. Torpy back to Vanganar, back to Henry Paul. And that was good work by the Kiwis. They kept throwing it about, hoping for something to happen. Eventually it was played by Beetham. It's come across now for Robbie Paul. Robbie Paul away for David Solomona. He lays it on the ground. And again, with no regard for field position or scoreboard, 16-0 in this game is not all that drastic, given that you've got so much of the game remaining.
There's some dazzling play on the far side from New Zealand, which is more of what the crowd would like to see, but the footing is a problem tonight, and players have got to be aware of that. David Solomon on that occasion, the same motion of passing the football, tripped over, just came up with a simple drop ball. Johns now tackled 22 out.
It's Kearns, and Robbie's able to put it out the back for Medeiros. Medeiros for Johns. Johns on for Barrett. Barrett to Fittler. Fittler losing his footing over there on the 20-metre line. It is quite greasy out there. As Lockyer puts a grubbing kick in, it's fielded by Henry Paul and picked up confidently, and then able to make 15 metres out from his own line. The referee's done a dipsy-doodle as Vanganar makes a good run of about 20 metres, 32 metres out from his own line. There has been just a couple of signs of something happening for the Kiwis over on the right side as they get a penalty now. This will help their cause.
Well, that's probably the 3 best tackles that the New Zealanders have put on in a row. Some great running there from Nigel Vunganar. Fairly quick play the ball. Russell Smith looking to play advantage. There was none for New Zealand, so he came up with the penalty. Stacey Jones should now find touch. Pretty good position. Well, it's not a great kick from Jones, but it does find touch. That's the important thing.
From half-time. Obviously, they need to be the team that scores next. As I said, 16-0. It's not the end of the world, not in the modern day of rugby league. But to be throwing passes willy-nilly up your own end of the park is not necessary when there's 45 minutes of the game remaining, surely. Smith drops one out the back. Solomona is with it. Let's see what he does this time. He protects possession. He'll play the ball inside the 30-metre line. Back for Swain. Swain away now for Beetham. And Monty Beetham is put down just outside the 20-metre line for Swain. Then to work it on the right for Jones. He had Lauatiti running a decoy. This is Swan in jumper number 14. He was 12 metres out from the line. And it's a penalty.
Australia raking the ball out there. Turkey rushing in to fake the tap kick. Now a decision from Nathan Kalis as to whether to kick for goal. They're all looking to the sideline to see what the call is over there. So plenty of players in the tackle. And I'm not sure whether it was Johns or Fittler who was penalised there.
So they have opted to go for the grand prize rather than take what seemed like it might have been 2 points, almost guaranteed.
Oh, no.
And now he says play on. It's Jones. Jones getting it away for Lauatiti. Lauatiti held about 5 metres out from the line. The Kiwi prop, biggest on the park. Then Jones back on the inside for Craig Smith. Smith held by the defence. Badiris underneath. Lockyer over the top. Now they lose the ball again. Beetham it was who lost it, then got it back. And I would imagine this will be a loose head and feed to Australia. He's indicated the knock-on. He hasn't pointed to which side actually will have the feed. He has now, though. And Australia will come away from their own 10-metre line. This is what happened, Beetham.
Well, I don't think there was a knock-on.
You think it was dislodged by the Australians?
Well, even if it wasn't, I'm sure it went straight back from Monty Beetham. But it was a perfect opportunity for New Zealand to get back into this match. If they could have done something just before half-time, shortened the scoreline up, got some confidence, and have come into the second 40 minutes in a better frame of mind.
So we'll mark that one down as a tough call for the Kiwis. And now Australia gets a penalty, which really amplifies the problem, doesn't it? One, you get a tough call against you, and then off the very next play, you get penalised. And this was the cause of that. It was Saylor not being allowed to get to his feet and play the ball.
Well, we've got under 2 minutes left now, just on 2 minutes. I'm prepared to say that if Australia score in this 2 minutes, New Zealand can't win this test match. They are out of it. 16-0, it's not great, but it's still something that you feel as though you can reel in. If you're chasing 20 or 22, it's all over.
Kearns, in Australia, I reckon he would have been penalised, Kearns. Now it's Badiris. Lockyer turning it inside for captain Brad Fittler. They have 2 goes at him. Swain got him eventually. Now it came off an Australian, went forward to a Kiwi. Then he knocked it back and Australia came up with it. And the referee is going to rule that the ball was propelled forward by Australia. He'll pack a scrum. And the black and whites will get the feed. In front of what has become a healthy crowd here at WestpacTrust Stadium. Fittler it was. Wreaking the damage, came off Australia, went forward. They got no advantage. They merely got a touch to it, and then it came down to an Australian again. So we are looking at half-time in a matter of seconds, and again the mistakes continue to be paramount. Torpy on the far side of the ground will be made to play the ball, and playing it back for Henry Paul to use Monty Beetham, and he's tackled on the 30-metre line, his own end of the ground.
Well, Gary Freeman's been in charge of this side for just the one test against France, and I can say that the half-time talk would have been a fairly amiable one. Will not be the case in under half a minute. I think he will rip shreds off his team, and he will tell them in this second half they go out and start again, and it's got to start with their formidable forward pack to set the platform.
Craig Smith now. Just under 15 seconds of the first half remaining. Lauatiti. And unloading for Swain. Lofting it over the top for Craig Smith. Robbie Paul is with him, but Smith is tackled and put to ground. And the siren will sound during this play. One would think it's away to Jones on the inside for Henry Paul. Back for Stacey Jones. Round the corner for Craig Smith. Not knocked on. Robbie Paul is there. Puts his hand up. Lauatiti got it away. Solomona put a kick in. Came off Australia. Went to Violecki. Violecki got it away to Melly. And Melly puts it out over the dead ball line. But it was something to take to the dressing rooms to instill some confidence into the 40 minutes that will follow. The siren sounded in the background. The first half, I can't say it's all been Australia, because the first 10 minutes, it really looked like they may have come here for a very difficult day. But then mistakes came into the Kiwi game. Australia broke them again. And then the Kiwis really have contributed to their own downfall. 16-0, Australia leading at half-time. We will take a break and come back with a second half action from this Trans-Tasman Test match. Coming to you from Wellington on the Wide World of Sports right after this. And New Zealand and Australia totally in command of this game after a great start by the Kiwis. You've got to say that, but Brad Fittler's men then, they turned it around, as so often they have against their Kiwi counterparts. They weathered the storm, then they made the crack, Johns and Barrett particularly. And we saw 2 tries run in by the Australians. Girdler has been impeccable with the boot. And we come towards half-time with a 16-0 scoreline in favour of the Australians as the Kiwis come back out. Peter Sterling made the point in commentary that what would have been a rather contained and happy coach would have been nothing like that. Let's have a look at some stats here, Pete.
Yes, Ray, our Mitsubishi match stats to show us that statistically it's not that bad for New Zealand. Surprisingly, the same amount of line breaks, 2 apiece. Even possession is evenly shared, and 10 missed tackles, not that bad in one half of football. The problem for New Zealand is the error count, 6-2. And the scoreboard tells us that Australia have made New Zealand pay very much so for those half-dozen errors.
Pictures tonight coming to you through the courtesy of Sky Sports here in New Zealand. Thank them for that. Junior Kangaroos score. I know a lot of you would have been interested in that. There were a galaxy of young Australian stars on show. They won 50-12 Australia. Gee, didn't they have some talent in the Australian side? Kids that are playing first grade all the time. 50-12.
Well, Brayton Astor was a standout, Ray.
So Australia into the second half of play now, off the boot of Andrew Johns. And as Peter made the point just before halftime, the home side really need to be the team that scores next. And this big fellow has really given them something to build on, Lauatiti, as they don't go down that blind side as they suggested they might. Beetham, another player to lose his footing. He'll play the ball 32 metres out from his own line. Referee for the match is the Englishman Russell Smith. If you've only just joined us, the video referee is Neville Kesher. As the Kiwis attempt to try and break Australia in the opening exchanges of the second half, as Beetham plays it on the halfway line, and Swain rubbering that ball, keeping it nice and low, and then skimming off the turf for Lockyer, and Lockyer trying to go down that right side defence of the Kiwis, runs into Vunganar and Swan. Now it's Latiti, I beg your pardon, Takiri, I should say, and it goes to ground to be eventually fallen on by the Australians, but the referee finds a knock on and probably off Rob Kearns.
Yeah, Lottie Takiri heading across field, threw the ball to a stationary Robbie Kearns. Not really the big man's fault putting that one down, but it's a rare mistake from Australia, especially their own end of the field.
Big occasion for 7 of these Australians on debut, including Lottie Takiri and Petro Sivanasiva. Big occasion for them. As the ball comes away with Solomona now, and equally for him, I suppose you've got to say. Wonderful rise through the ranks of rugby league for so many of these young fellows. Now it's come away through Robbie Paul for Logan Swan, and then another knock on.
Get on your line.
Well, I mean, there's no pressure on him at all, and we know that he's a talented footballer. Robbie Paul, here it is. If Logan Swan's passes, there's really no defence within 3 metres of him. Maybe he took his eyes off him, thinking about what he was going to do next. Johns, Fittler, and now Sivanasiva. And of several Broncos that are going to have to line up and do it again within 48 hours, as some will do within 24 hours. Back in the National Rugby League competition, which, of course, goes back into full swing again tomorrow. Lockyer gets a kick in just in front of a couple of players, putting some charge down pressure on him. And Francis Melly coming away from on that left side of the ground, the eastern side. Here's Henry Paul.
On that occasion, Danny Medeiros didn't get the ball to Darren Lockyer as quickly as he would have liked. One of the Australians got in the road. But the service from Medeiros has been superb tonight. I do expect him to start running the football out of dummy half midway through this second half. Beaton takes it 41 out. Russell Smith calling the Australians back. Shane Webke was a mile offside.
Second man play for the Kiwis, and then again an ill-directed pass that really took the sting away from Solomona, who again persists in trying to offload, and the ball came loose. I think he must have regathered. Let's see. Yes, the picture shows that he did regather. As they make a half break, Barrett was trailing through, finished up with the mistake offered by the Kiwis. And there they are, the Australians, with Johns just outside the 30-metre line. Repeating that halftime score, 16-0. This is Monty Beetham almost creating a complete break for the Kiwis, but Australia finishing up with the football. Now on the halfway mark, as Saylor plays it, and now Sivanasiva. He takes it ahead to be met there by the number 10, Craig Smith, and also David Solomona. Centre of the ground, 40-metre line, Webke straight up the middle, looking to turn it back. From Medeiros to his Newcastle teammate, Johns. Johns going very, very high. Francis Melly puts the ball down, and it's with Henry Paul, but referee Russell Smith has ruled that it went forward. He will put a scrum down. He will give the Australians the feed, and this will be 10 metres out, 20 metres in.
And he was never going to catch this football. Never looked comfortable at all under it. In fact, it was a freak of nature that he actually got his hands around to knock the ball forward.
We must also give some credit to the kick. It was perfectly
great.
placed. Now it's Lockyer, and across they come for Girdler, in and away by Girdler, but then he's pulled down 2 metres out from the line. So close to the line, only a few metres in fact. To Kerry for Lockyer. Lockyer back on the inside for Kearns, and Robbie Kearns to play the ball. Medeiros waits, goes to the right for Carlaw, and Dane Carlaw, he will play the ball. Still with a couple of tackles left. Medeiros looking to his playmaker. Johns is with it. A long cutout ball. Barrett's pass goes to ground and into touch. So the machinery is broken down for once. Wendell would have been looking for his 14th international try.
Of course, he'd have been looking for his last try in Australian colours. So the final test, we'll see Wendell Saylor represent in rugby league. Stacey Jones, a wide ball to Henry Paul, onto his brother Robbie. Good defence, tackled inside his own 20.
Swan this time, taken by a struggling defence comprising Girdler and Fittler and Carlaw, and it's gone away from Torpy, and it's with the number 13 Monty Beetham, who's really slaved very hard in this game in a beaten side. Henry Paul hammered into the ground, and as we see Gary Freeman up there on tenterhooks, a very emotional player, and I guess some of that would have gone through to his coaching career, but he wouldn't be happy with the scoreboard nor the effort in the first 40 minutes. Mistake-ridden is probably the kindest way to describe it. Played by Beetham. Now for the boot of, there's the ball to ground and the kick down the ground for Lockyer. And Lockyer just jinking and trying to beat them, but he's really given his own problem to Kiri, who was able to go back across the ground and be tackled just beyond the 20-metre line.
As we see Stephen Kearney lining up on the sideline, about to come back into the action. They haven't had many opportunities this evening, but the back three for Australia in the Brisbane Broncos, two wingers, Takiri and Saylor. Speaking of Saylor, there he is now with Lockyer. If they're given half an opportunity, they will explode here tonight. Their combination is just so good.
Johns then. Put down by Swan. And now it's Carlaw putting on the power as he takes it down to the Kiwis 40-metre line. There's the pass away for Johns. They certainly don't mind feeding some replays into their coverage here. As Henry Paul comes away from his own line. Almost to the 10 metres, 16-0. No improvement on the halftime score, which is good news for the home side. Robbie Paul. His brother Henry. Then he combines again with brother Robbie. Out to the 30-metre line. So together they've brought it 20 metres down the ground. And here's a penalty against the Australians. Russell Smith playing an advantage. And the penalty goes to New Zealand just inside their own 40-metre line. It's something like 31.5 minutes of this game remaining. Australia still comfortable. Bobby Kearns apparently was one of those players found to be offside. As you can see, Smith is playing an advantage. As Henry Paul takes the kick for touch and finds it over on the eastern side. Lawatiti. The Mexican wave goes round the ground. Crowd trying to play their part. Kearney to the 30-metre line. Swain. This is Craig Smith now. Jones lurking behind him. And Smith will play it 20 metres out from the Australian line. From Swain they go across then for Jones, and Jones for Paul, and then Robbie Paul and Henry Paul put it together again. And then David Violecki gets it back for Paul, and Robbie Paul is over. That's what we've been waiting for. A touch of brilliance from the unpredictable Robbie Paul.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, but just the tonic that New Zealand needed to get back into this game. As we said, 16, it is not insurmountable. In fact, in the modern game, it's probably not that big a lead. Good work here out wide from the New Zealand side. That change in direction, trying to create the extra man. David Violecki did superbly. And then a lovely pass to Paul, who was able to pick it up off his bootlaces and cross. For the Paul brothers, there hasn't been too much in between tonight. They've either been very good or poor. But this is good involvement. Planned move there from the Paul brothers. And then Violecki. Nice stepping back on the inside. Lovely offload. All of a sudden we have a ball game. We've worked on this in training, and it's so nice when something like that comes off. Again, you can see the problem that the players are having keeping their footing, and that's why changing direction with the football is such a good ploy tonight. And again, I would imagine it's something that both coaches spoke about at half-time.
So the brothers from the Bradford Bulls, they lay a try together for the Kiwis and no goal. So we will take a break with the scoreboard 16-4 in favour of Australia here in Wellington. 16-4. Kiwis on the board. Craig Smith able to unload. The Australians dropped off in defence. Fletcher and Sivanasiva were the culprits. They thought they had him, but they didn't. And now Lawatiti looked for a player on his inside. There was one on his outside. This is Swade. Richard on the halfway mark. And back from Monty Beetham, the Kiwis getting a little bit of a roll on. The confidence meter has gone up for them. That's where they are. Up to the 30-metre line for Logan Swan now, getting close to this western touchline. 12-point ball game. 28 minutes of the game remaining. Through from Stacey Jones, away for Henry Paul. Fletcher was clutching at him. Lauatini got the ball away. Now it's with Kearney. Kearney taken by Fittler, and he's pulled out. Payback for Beetham. Jones to the air. High. Lockyer couldn't get a grab at it. It's down there for Van Genaar.
The referee said it's not 6 again. Said it was touched by a New Zealander knocking it back. Australia will get the football back. A little bit of interplay between Stephen Kearney and Brad Fittler. The best dive you've ever seen from the Aussie captain.
Lockyer was up there, and though one might have been tempted to argue with the call, I tend to think Russell Smith might have got it right.
Yeah, he got it exactly right. Stephen Kearney was the man who touched it. As Fletcher explores up the middle. Tackle on the 40.
Badiris using the right man for Stevens.
Well, I'm just wondering whether everything is okay with Nathan Kalis. We haven't seen a lot of game time from him. He is the captain of the side and a guy who doesn't get interchanged a lot at club level. And then he'll come back in for the last 20. Sivanasiva nearly gets through, had Lockyer in support.
Still no time in the game either for McDougall as Johns runs to the right. Barrett is with him. Barrett gets it away. Fletcher goes down inside the 20-metre line. They're inside the 10-metre line. They keep it alive, the Australians. Badiris, good ball from him. A kick by Johns. There's a race on. Takiri might get there. Yes, Takiri gets there. That is a magnificent rugby league try. I'm fairly confident Takiri's got there in time. What about you?
Oh, what about Andrew Johns? The vision in the kick. But what some wonderful lead-up play, offloading, as Russell Smith has gone to the video referee just to confirm what we believe will be a try to Lottie Takiri. They had a couple of opportunities, New Zealand, to snuff that play out, but it was just some brilliance in keeping the ball alive. That pass is great. That is incredible from Andrew Johns. Going sideways, kicking off balance, and was still able to put it just in the field of play for his left winger to score. Sure that this will say that there's no drama with the put down, and if that's all they're looking at.
It's a try, Peter.
Yep.
It has got to be a try. That pass from Badiris, that kick from Johns, it was a double whammy from Newcastle, and then the Bronco winger, he got there inches inside the dead ball line to score a tremendous try. Some rewiring there for Russell Smith. He's done the right thing going to the video, but looking at the pictures that you and I are looking at, it seems they have scored a wonderful international try here.
And Ray, even going back to the initial break from Petro Sivanasiva, he did well to keep it alive. The support play from Australia tonight has been a feature of their play.
Video referee is Neville Kesher. He was the referee back in '87. There's the try awarded. And quite obviously it had to be awarded. Well done, Lottie Takiri. 20 points to 4. Kesher got involved in that infamous verbal as we watch the replay of this magnificent piece of football. Look at that pass from Badiris. And then Johns with the kick. You're not supposed to be able to do that.
Well, most players can't, Ray.
And the Kiwis bench, a negative reaction, because they probably thought that they could smell a little bit of a comeback coming on. Kesher got involved in that verbal with Wally Lewis back in '87, where I think Wally, amongst other things, doubted his parentage.
He's always good at debating on the field, the king. As we see Nathan Kalis, the man I was talking about, ready to come back on to skipper his side. Sivanasiva onto Fletcher, onto Gidley. Gidley to Badiris, Badiris up to Johns. It was just beautiful stuff.
A rugby league delight. Girdler has got to earn his money. He's had some simple ones. This is touchline stuff. 21 out. Oh, great kick by Girdler. Tremendous conversion of the try, scored by Takiri. It deserved to be converted. 22-4 as we break. On your respective breaks, those of you that have been to one, as Jason Stevens brings it back for Australia. holding this lead now of 22 points to 4. A converted try scored by Takiri. And it came at a time that coincided with what looked like a bit of a fight back from the Kiwis. They were putting things together, looking a little bit dangerous. As Stevens plays it back, Badeiras goes for a dummy half scamper. He's tackled there by Craig Smith and by Logan Swan. A couple of metres from the halfway mark, then Fittler. Away from Johns. This is nothing unusual from Johns that he would, with pinpoint accuracy, put it over the sideline there. But keep in mind, this bloke is playing his second game of rugby league in, what, 11 weeks. And he's just picked it up where he left it before.
Well, I think he's played a little bit like Alan Langer did for Queensland in State of Origin 3. He's just played cleverly. Again, I'm not saying Langer paced himself or Johns has, but they've taken the shortcuts when they presented themselves. They realise that they're probably a little bit down on everybody else, so they just make the necessary adjustments. And I think that's a great thing about this Australian side tonight, Ray, is everybody has to submerge their ego just a little bit when you've got so much quality. So the likes of Darren Lockyer maybe doesn't touch the football as much as he does for Brisbane. Johns, Fittler, Barrett, all just taking a little bit off their game to accommodate the side's performance.
And that point was hammered home to me when Andrew Johns first appeared in State of Origin football, playing alongside Fittler and Daly. I thought he was sort of an introverted Andrew Johns. It's very difficult to meld so many great superstars that are all ball players and match winners together. But they are just taking it in their turns as Stacey Jones puts in a little kick and Paul tries to regather. John's got in his road. Jones picked up the ball. It's back with Henry Paul. He gets the ball back to Richard Swain. Good offload by Swain, even though it's gone back on the bounce, and then it's been knocked on, I fancy.
Yeah, Craig Smith had no chance of picking that one up. I may disagree with you. I don't often do it, Ray, but I didn't think it was a good offload. Richard Swain threw it without even looking to see if there was anybody there. It wasn't the last tackle. Nice deliberate kick there for Henry Paul. Stacey Jones picked it up.
Scrum 35 metres away from the Australian line. Gidley. Sailor. To see him get a try. I know there are mixed feelings about what he's going to do with his career, but if that's what he wants to do, good luck to him. I just would like to see him cap this victory off with a personal four-pointer, because he's been very good for Australia and coming up with those tries when we've needed him in some tight situations. This is Carlo, 28 metres out from the Kiwi line. Now, which way are they going to go? They're going to let this get out to big proportions, or will they come back? Fletcher, 15 metres in from the eastern touchline. And then it's with Johns, and he decides to use the air. It's gone across towards Takiri. The ball comes back. The bat down might be successful for Girdler. And referee Russell Smith wants to see the replay. Who it's come off, which direction has it gone, before he makes a decision one way or the other for Ryan Girdler and for Australia.
We don't have a tremendously good angle up here, but my initial reaction is that Lottie Takiri has touched the football, but he's knocked it back. As I say, we're on a pretty bad angle from where we're commentating from.
So the first thing he'll be looking for from the video referee was Takiri onside? And here's that answer for you. And there's no problem there. He's a mile behind the kicker.
Now he flies high. Oh, no, it looks like it's gone forward. And really, from the reaction of the Australian players who are now placed around the 20-metre line, I don't think they're that excited that they've got another one. Gee, from that point of view, it looks to me it's come off to Kiwi and gone backwards to Girdler.
I don't think you're going to get the angle that you dearly would like to see. You can look at it from both those angles and come up with two different versions.
Well, again, I'm going to go from the reaction of the players, and the Australians are lined out, 30 out from the line, waiting for a restart from the Kiwis. Oh, I tell you what, if I was a video referee, which I'm glad I'm not, To me, that says that it's a try. Takiri touches the ball. And it goes back, but I don't think that is going to be the case.
Initially off the hands, it's gone backwards. There's no doubt about that. Girdler, I think he gave up earlier, but now he's starting to think, hang on a moment, this has got some chance. Might well be what he's thinking to himself. No try, 20-metre restart. So it's a knock-on in goal. The attacking side that sees this restart for the Kiwis.
And again, the players were the best judge then. That's probably the case in most occasions when the video referee is called from. We immediately look at the reaction of the players involved. Pretty much know what's happened. As Richard Swain, who's had a very good match for his side tonight, picks up another 5 metres on the short side.
Now Titi, one of those players that you can easily identify by having the socks down. Bit of a commentator's dream, really, players like that. And here's another little mistake creeping in.
I think it's come off the Australians, Ray. I think they played at it, so that will be a knock-on in the New Zealand feed. When you ask the question whether the Kiwis would allow this one to get away from them, it's important that they don't, because this is the future of New Zealand Rugby League at the moment. In the World Cup final last year, I think there's something like 13 different players as Robbie Paul nearly goes through. A lot of youngsters out there. They need to get off to a good start in their international careers. They can still do that in this game.
Bundana pushing away. Craig Smith to the line. Putting it down for Henry Paul. Now back for Ali Latiti, and he is just outside the 10-metre line, and he's going to play the ball. As it goes back and away from Swain onto the left of the ground for Jones. Jones back for Kearney, and Kearney is hammered down in a low tackle from Badiris. As the dummy goes the outside, he goes back to the blind side. Robbie Paul, that is. The lone Kiwi try scorer at 22-4. Ball loose on the ground, and the referee is issuing a penalty to the Kiwis. Taken quickly by Robbie. It's gone across for Stacey Jones. Then for Henry Paul. Short ball for Craig Smith. And again the defence holds tight, this time from Fittler. And also Sivanasiva. Henry Paul goes back and across for Stacey Jones. Now for Kearney. Kearney looking for somebody to give it to, but he's pulled down by Matthew Gidley. And the Australian right side defence, Swain for Lauatiti. He's confronted by Stevens and then takes the tackle. That's the line. That's the all-important line. Swain back for Jones. Dummies to Smith. Crabs across the ground. Henry Paul is there, and Jones knocks on. Well, how many times have they done it? Players that you really don't expect to do it in black and white jumpers. This time it was Stacey's turn. Robbie Paul's done it. Henry Paul's done it. Players that, as I said, you don't expect them to do because they've got brilliant hands. McDougall gets ready.
Mad Dog warming up on the sideline. He'll be dead keen to get involved in this one.
And we give this both barrels for the last 20 minutes. Mad Dog.
Well, I think Gary Freeman coming into this game might have thought there was a little bit of a defensive problem out wide for New South Wales. Sorry, the Australian side, with the New South Wales centre pairing of Girdler and Gidley. But they've been superb tonight. They've stood Solomona out there, Stephen Kearney out there, Logan Swan's been out there. But the 3 and the 4 have handled it comfortably.
Fletcher, considered by some to be lucky to be on the side. Ball comes loose now. Was it helped on its way? The referee says it was, and Smith gives a penalty to the Australians. Ryan, of course, involved in that high shot in the club game last weekend. And Gary Freeman made no secret of the fact that he thought he got out light. And as Australia prepares to take the tap just into Kiwi territory, Stevens takes it ahead. Logan Swan is there. They pick him up and put him on the ground, 32 metres out. Good long run by Stevens. Now Sivanasiva does the same, and they get it down towards the 20-metre line. And now away for the classy Andrew Johns to take it about 5 metres inside the 20. Play in the centre of the ground, but Badiris has a little dig himself. Fittler steps off his left foot twice. Back to Barrett. Barrett back for Stevens. Stevens turns it back, taken on the half volley by Barrett. Barrett away for Johns. Johns rifles a pass for Gidley. Gidley puts in a little kick, and Melly is back there, but it's gone into touch in goal. So it'll come back for a 20-metre restart.
Well, the Aussies once again asked a lot of questions there, but the defence from New Zealand was excellent. Every time there was an offload, there was enough numbers there to combat that forced Gidley into the kick. And then the winger does very well here, under pressure, to allow it to go over the sideline.
16 minutes of the game to go. Australians leading 16-0 at half-time. And a try apiece in the second half. Talking to Gary Freeman, that would please him, I suppose, to a certain extent. But they really fell apart in the main body of the first half. It really created some problems for themselves. Now a TT on replay there. He's been very strong, the big fella. Got a lot of game time. He came off the bench originally. Henry Paul puts a kick in, and Lockyer falling back, taking it easily. Saylor going around behind Lockyer, and Saylor is tackled just inside his own 10-metre line, inside his red zone.
Well, that was almost a kick out of frustration. It wasn't the last tackle, as McDougall gets his first touch tonight. The winger and the fullback were always going to handle it fairly comfortably. Really, it was just handing over possession. Lottie Takiri again breaks out.
And a knock-on from Brian Fletcher. So it's the advantage rule applying, and the Kiwis need to make every post a winner if they're going to make any sort of a contest out of this. Melly playing it on the far side. Violecki now for Robbie Paul. And the 15 for the Kiwis, Jerry C.U. He plays the ball inside the 30-metre line from Swain. Through to Stacey Jones. Over now for Henry Paul. Dummies to Logan Swan. Goes to Nigel Vangana. And he'll be forced to play the ball. Australia right up in their face in defence. Girdler and Gidley, they've been on the end of a bit of criticism. And they've both done their job tonight. Ridding themselves of the spotlight, I suppose. Awatiti. And now it is with Jones, and Jones decides to have a go himself, taking on the line. 7 metres out from the line. They're close for Kearney. Kearney swivelling, trying to get the arm free, trying to pop the ball. Got some push there from CU. And
he's popped the ball and has regained it, Ray. Sorry.
So
tackle.
It's play on, and the last tackle is with us. And Jones goes across. They've isolated Takiri. Takiri takes it inside the dead ball line, so it's a 20-metre restart. He had to get it absolutely right, Lottie, because there was only one green and gold jumper and a hell of a lot of black and white. He did lose it, Pete. He did lose it, and there was a hand in there, and it should have been a penalty to the Kiwis. And then here was Takiri over there, almost on his own. So the Australians leading by 22 points to 4. Only once have they been broken. It probably turned out to be a pretty tough call for the Kiwis when you look at that Kearney incident on replay. Johns' pass on the bounce for Lockyer. Lockyer, a little ball up for Dane Carlaw. Carlaw's inside the 30, got it back to Lockyer. Lockyer, the ball goes to ground. McDougall couldn't take it. It was a tough pass. So with the advantage rule, the Kiwis through their captain, Kalis.
He's lost the football.
And the referee didn't see it. He was trying to get back to the 10 metres, the referee, and he must have got a call from the touchy. He certainly got a call from the Australian tackler. And this scrum, that was Carlaw, by the way, then Lockyer, then McDougall. He got a tough ball. He got some fingertips on it, but he couldn't make a catch of it. Then this, and Cale is losing it cold. Crowd tonight, 26,580. 26,580, that's a good crowd. As they go away on the right for Barrett. Barrett for Gidley. Gidley away for Saylor. Saylor upended and driven into the ground.
Violecki was the man.
He's been strong, as I said, the Parramatta boy. Now it is Robbie Kearns who'll be asked to play the ball. Inside the 10-metre line, on the eastern side of the ground. Over it comes for Johns. Now for Fittler. Fittler goes back looking for Lockyer. Picks up Lockyer. The ball goes away for Carlaw. Carlaw is tackled. Nose first into the ground. The line is there. Now they're 10 out. Lockyer goes across for Fletcher. And Fletcher well contained by the Kiwis. In front of the uprights, about 9 metres from the line. Now Johns, beautiful ball. Barrett's over for another Australian try. Johns has just dominated. He has been involved in just about everything tonight. And Barrett, doesn't he love it? 26-4, the Kangaroos over the Kiwis.
Well, just have a look at how easily Andrew Johns dissects this defence here for his outside man. He gets 2 men involved. He steps there and then goes towards Stephen Kearney. With Kearney coming in, it opened up the huge gap for Barrett, and he was able to run a good angle coming very straight onto it. But here he just steps off the left foot. That committed 2 men, and he made it look oh so easy. As Trent Barrett just goes through it with Wendell. Matt Gidley was having a good time.
I just wonder what Trent was saying there. You know, I think he was sort of expressing his amazement at this bloke in the number 7. Maybe I'm getting carried away, but I think that's what Barrett was on about. You know, this bloke's a genius. Who is this bloke in the 7? So the conversion is there, and Australia well clear of the Kiwis. It is now 28 points to 4 as we take a break. As we welcome you back for a shallow restart, it has to be very accurate. They've got some fairly dull memories of a line dropout earlier in the game. Robbie Paul tackled eventually as they got the result they looked for. They got the bat down, got the ball back, quite against the run of play, and becoming quite a feature in the game these days, particularly with the kicking tee, I fancy. 40 metres out from the line and trailing now by 28 points to 4, the Kiwis. So it's purely academic, but it really is a joy to watch the talent of these players. Is Henry Paul, and the ball going to ground, picked up by Stacey Jones, given away to CU, and then Robbie Paul finding David Violecki. Was he high tackled? No, he wasn't. Kearney did well under pressure and from a standing start through Beetham. Now Jones inside for Henry Paul. Back it goes for Monty Beetham. He can't get a catch on it. Taken by Kalis. Went forward off the Kiwis. Scrum Australia's feet. Yes, as I said, it's a delight to sit and watch these players. Johns, Barrett, Fiddle, Lockyer.
Well, Ray, it's fair to say that all 17 have taken a major step towards touring with the Kangaroos at the end of the year through England. In fact, I'd say 18 players have, because I would fancy that Nathan Blacklock, this experience is obviously very much in the selectors' minds. Nobody has done their chances any harm tonight as Barrett steps off the left.
I should point out that Wendell, I think, becomes ineligible to be chosen for the Kangaroo Tour. So, I mean, there will be a wing position up for grabs, and it would seem certain that Nathan's got the job, barring injuries. And that will bring a resounding echo of applause from Australia, and why not? He's been just so magnificent.
Well, you would think that 3 wingers would go away in that touring party. In fact, Lottie Takiri was the first winger chosen in this Australian side.
And so he should have been.
Exactly right. For Dougal, of course, Nathan Blacklock. As that kick from Ryan Girdler, fielded by Henry Paul. Even this late in the game, the chase is excellent. Darren Lockyer makes the tackle. Fletcher is there.
Mealy, or Melly, Francis, to his friends. And might only take 3, Peter, now that you bring that subject up, given that it's not a Kangaroo Tour of great length. Lost by CU, advantage rule. Barrett's with it.
There's no doubt I'll just take the 3, Ray. It's a short party as well. I think the 24 players are going now. It was only 22 at one stage.
You'll see that tour. You'll see the test matches on the wide world. We're going over to cover that for you from early November. Is the ball coming up from Jerry CU. And it's put down on the ground by, I believe, McDougall, and then Saylor couldn't get a grab. And now Saylor picks him up off the ground and says, come on, mate, bad luck. Remember last what night?
Marathon last Friday night.
They tried to belt the tripe out of each other.
It's a great game, rugby league, and the reports that they were very, very comfortable with each other in camp this week.
Are they rooming together?
I don't think so.
It's amazing the difference a week makes. Anyway, that's good sportsmanship. Nigel Vangada pulled down by Trent Barrett. This is the part about Barrett, and I'm not being disrespectful to Brett Kamali or anybody else, but Barrett's defence is so strong. You mightn't look at that he's a good bit bigger than he probably represents, and very, very strong. See you. He'll want to be at his best too, I might add, as I think about club football this weekend. Both he and Craig Smith. Here's a kick ahead, looking for the runners, taken by Lockyer, spoiling the party.
We've got the kicker taken out. Ryan Fletcher, I think, was the culprit. In fact, it's Trent Barrett being spoken to.
Just on that subject of club football, they play the Eagles tomorrow. So, the linchpins of the Dragons are going to be on their best. And here's Henry Paul, dragged down there and covered by Robbie Kearns. Now they press the 10-metre line. Ruben Wiki hasn't seen a lot of football. And then it's with Stacey Jones, who gives it away for CU, and he takes it up to the 10-metre line to be tackled. Not a lot of time left in the game. And consummate for the Australians at 28-4. They haven't really been pressed other than the opening exchanges. Henry Paul back for Monty Beetham. His legs taken from under him conventionally by Brad Fittler, then a lunge at the line by Henry Paul. That is unsuccessful. Fifth tackle. Swain got pushed out of the road by Beetham. Beetham gets a pass away for Stacey Jones. Grubbing kick and cleaned up by Badiris. It'll be line dropout time.
Yeah, Danny Badiris has been Johnny on the spot tonight. He's come up with some great cover defensive tackles. That time it was diving on a loose ball. Number 9's been excellent tonight. And I was just watching Henry Paul. He probably touched the football 3 or 4 tackles out of the last 6. He's had some unhappy passages tonight, but gee, it's a shame that we're not going to see him in the NRL competition. I know he's on a great wicket over in England and he's re-signing with Bradford, but you'd love to see him put himself to the test of the NRL competition week in, week out.
Just Swain down on the 20-metre line. Players coming and going. Kearney, of course, comes from here. He played his schoolboy football here. His idols at South Sydney included Ian Roberts and Mario Fennick. And an intercept attempt there by Girdler goes astray. Vunganar picks it up, is tackled on the 10-metre line. 6 more tackles for the black and whites. And here's Wiki with a charge at the line. And again, the Australians shoulder up. 24 points in front. Not about to have tries, just scored on them willy-nilly. As it goes wide for Violecki, trouble for Sailor. Now Melly's over. There's the second of the Kiwi tries. Smith pointing to the spot. No question about this one. 28-8. Second try of the night to New Zealand, scored by their winger, Francis Melly.
And some joy in the crowd now. 28 points to 8. It's not a huge scoreline against them and something they can definitely work on. Did you see there, Adam McDougall raced up very quickly. That gave the overlap to Violecki and his winger on the outside in Melly. And he was able to step on the inside, dived in low. He was always going to ensure that he was going to cross the line. McDougall tried to knock the ball out of the air. Violecki did well, positioned his man. He was able to step back on the inside. Now, look, they've looked great at times, New Zealand, with the football, keeping it alive. It's just, I don't think they've been selective enough with the football. Every time that there's been a last pass thrown, instead of maybe thinking whether it should be thrown, it's always been thrown, and that's led to too many errors.
So Francis Melly gets the second try. The first was scored by Robbie Paul. And now the attempted conversion from Henry Paul is spot on. Lovely kick. 28-10. Yes, Francis, your try has been converted. 28-10, the Kangaroos over the Kiwis. McDougall, incidentally, I was posing the question to Peter earlier. He's come on in the centres, where I think he played in the World Cup final against New Zealand, did he not?
Adam McDougall did. He actually hurt his ankle in that game and didn't finish it. Hurt it fairly early on. I think that plagued him early into the current domestic season.
I was only thinking when Danny Badiris cleaned up in the in-goal and forced a line drop-out for the Australians. It's an example for anybody not to give up. Danny had to be content with sitting back, watching State of Origin. Gower, Prudis, they got the chances. And then all of a sudden the selectors handed him a green and gold jumper.
Yeah, Luke Prudis especially can consider himself very unlucky, but you've got to praise Danny Medeiros in the way that he's grabbed the opportunity tonight. With that try by Melly, that means a 12-10 second half in favour of Australia, so it's been a much more competitive second 40. There's a good run there from Brian Leckie.
Swain out of first receiver, and this is Solomona. He came on in the first half and he wanted to get the job done immediately, and there he is again with another example of how good he is with the ball. I think sometimes he's probably wrong in choosing to offload all the time, particularly when there's no need for it.
Well, I think he illustrates best what I said a moment ago, Ray, about throwing the pass always. An early kick now as we come into the final minute.
Saylor looking for the bounce, Pete. I thought for a moment we might be able to see a try from the big fella in the closing minutes. You were talking about Solomona.
Yeah, just that, you know, he's got to be aware of the fact that you can't offload in every situation. As the siren sounds.
So the end of the test match, the Trans-Tasman test with Australia. A big victory, 28 points to 10. They led 16-0 at the break. We will take a break now of our own form, and then Peter will come back and wrap things up, the Trans-Tasman test match from the WestpacTrust Stadium, which housed a crowd of just over 26,000 tonight in Wellington. Stay with us. We're coming back here in just a moment to wrap up the test match.
But tonight he lifts the Bill Kelly Trophy on behalf of the Australians following this 28-10 victory in the Trans-Tasman test against New Zealand. Point scorers tonight, 4 tries for the victors, with Gidley, Lockyer, Takiri and Barrett all crossing. Ryan Girdler perfect with the boot with 6 from 6, while for New Zealand, Robbie Paul and Melly crossed. Henry Paul kicked 1 from 2. A man of the match tonight and $1,000 richer courtesy of McDonald's. Well, we couldn't go past Andrew Johns, another dominant performance. Incredible to think he was out of the game for 10 weeks. And in the space of 7 days has come up with 2 man of the match performances.